Hey there, guys, and welcome to the first episode of Just Greeks and Beats. The title of my podcast series might suggest that this is just for Greeks, but that is far from the truth. This is an entertaining series that is full of fun and also about life growing up in Australia to fresh off the boat Greek parents. This is my pilot episode. Please bear with me. This is my very first time at podcasting. So it will be a brief length just so you can get an idea about me, get to know me. We will touch on many topics from family, language, health, food, culture, traditions, customs, community, music, travel, and life in general. A fun look, and maybe a cheeky one, at all things Greek. This is a podcast that will have many guests over the series, such as small business owners, travel experts, service providers, health professionals, and celebrities, all whom have a Hellenic background. Yassas, my name is Chrysovalandis Angelopoulos, or Chrysovalandis in Greek, but many call me Valandi, or just plain Old Simple Chris, depending on the time of day. Between the hours of 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, I am just Chris. But after hours and on the weekend, I'm Valandi, simply because it separates me from the 20 million other Greeks called Chris. Yes, that's right. In Greek tradition, we are normally named after our grandparents, in which case the firstborn male of the families would usually be named after their grandfather. In my case, Konstantinos, after my grandfather, or Papou in Greek. But I was actually named after a holy monastery in Greece called Saint Irene of Chrysovalandou. In later episodes, we will discuss this and what the meaning of my name is in detail. For now though, all you need to know is that I'm not a Christos or a Christopher, and I do not celebrate my name day on Christmas Day. Guys, again, this will be touched up in a later episode, the meaning of name days and of my saint as well. One of the biggest but silliest hates that I have in my life is being called Christopher or Christos, because I definitely ain't one. I was born and raised in Adelaide, South Australia, and I still live in this beautiful state. I was raised by Greek parents and they hardly spoke any English at all. And that's why English ended up being my second language. I was sent to a Greek-speaking kindy, followed by a Greek-speaking Orthodox-based college in the western suburbs of Adelaide. It was here that I found my passion for community, for language, and for music, on top of many other things. Growing up in the western suburbs, I was always surrounded by Greeks. In the late 80s to around the late 90s, we had a thriving Greek community filled with many Greek restaurants and cafes, coffee shops and cake shops, or zacharoplastia in Greek. Plenty of Greek community clubs such as the Pan-Acadian Association, the Pan-Rhodian Association, or the Colossus Hall as many know it. The part of Henley Beach Road that divided Thebarton, Torrensville and Mile End was the centre of all things Greek in Adelaide. It was like the little Athens of South Australia. In the heartland of this area was St. George Greek Orthodox Church, which to this day happens to still be one of the busiest places of worship in SA. I became an altar boy here at the young age of about 5, and I continued on to a full member of the executive committee later in life. This is where I gained my passion for community service. A local church, especially one like St. George, is a standalone community. And not only was I fortunate to be part of it, but the school that I spent majority of my life at was also part of it. So as per my earlier point about finding my passions, you can sort of get an idea of where it all began for me. Well, that was a brief on the Greek part of my podcast title. So now it brings us to the other part, the beats. All my life, I have loved music. I grew up with Greek dancing and plenty of music. I was surrounded by musicians in my family and at school, especially the bouzouki and the clarino, two of the most used instruments from my parents' part of Greece. I was introduced to Greek dancing lessons from a very young age through a combination of school lessons, private dancing lessons, and of course family events. Not only did it teach me rhythm, but it taught me culture and a variety of styles from all over Greece. I learned how similar Greeks are from all over the motherland, but also how very different they are. They can be so different all at the same time. Dialects and traditions change throughout Greece, and we will discuss this again in a later episode. My grandmother, or Yaya, lived with my family for most of my childhood life. She would be obsessed with the Adelaide-based Greek radio station, Doriforos. This was a community station. Every morning before school, every day after school, and all day on the weekends, I would be stuck listening to this station with her. I'm glad I did. That's the honest truth. Because just like Greek dancing that varies from region to region in Greece, so does our music. And listening to this station, I gained so much love and knowledge of the different styles of music. Through high school, I excelled in Greek lessons year after year. It may have been that it was my first language, or it could have been that my father forced me to go to Greek school, even if I fluently spoke the language. And I had lessons daily at my everyday school. Yes, that's right. Valandi had no soccer training or games on Saturday mornings. While studying Greek, in year 10 roughly, I was approached by a radio announcer to go into a studio for an interview on a modern youth program. This station was Radio Doriforos, where I then, at the age of 16, was invited to host my own radio program with a fellow school friend of mine. This show was named Greek Beats, or in Greek, Ellinikes Strofes. We played 3 hours of music every Sunday afternoon and talked a bit about things in general. Funny how things work out in this world. One day, I'm sitting on the couch listening to a station with my yaya, and the next, I'm actually on that same station hosting a show. Unfortunately, Yaya was not around at this stage, but I'm sure she had her little radio up there looking down on me and would have been probably still is, my number one listener. After a few shows, word got around school and the Greek community that I was doing this program. And I started getting invited to parties to DJ and to MC. Well, this was a turn in my life, a turn I never really had expected. 1 gig became 2, then 10, then twice a month. By the time I was 18, I was invited to DJ at club shows, playing the same music that I'd be playing on my radio show. It was such an amazing feeling just seeing these people dance and enjoy themselves, all because of the music that I was playing for them. Fast forward to today, about 20 years later, I DJ and MC for my small boutique entertainment company called Bounce Entertainment that services many events and functions such as weddings and parties. I organise and promote Adelaide's biggest long weekend Greek events at venues around town with Geffy Entertainment. I host weekly music radio program called Geffy Live on the same radio station that we spoke about earlier, Radio Doriforos. But I also now have a bit of a more modern touch as I live stream as well through to Facebook and other streaming services. I now have entered the podcasting universe, where I hope to deliver an entertaining and an amazing series of great fun about all things Greek. Like I said, guys, this is my first attempt at podcasting, and I'm really, really looking forward to presenting a whole series of just cheeky fun and just linking it all back to the Greek life. Before we end this pilot episode of my podcast series though, I would really like to point out a word that you will frequently be hearing throughout my series. That is the word Geffy. Gefi has been described by various Greeks as the meaning of spirit of joy, passion, enthusiasm, high spirits, overpowering emotion, or just frenzy. Gefi takes many forms and is usually, but not always, associated with the expression of positive emotion or fun. The custom of smashing plates, for example, is considered an expression of Gefi when the soul and the body are so overwhelmed with an excitement that you must find an outlet. And so is dancing with a glass of water, scotch, ouzo, balanced on your head. Over the years, the Greeks have adopted a number of different expressions and uses of this popular little word. Whether they realize it or not, many tourists to Greece are looking for their own spirit of Gefi, which may be found on a friendly beach or in a Greek taverna. If you're planning a trip to Greece, don't be afraid to get infected with the spirit of Greece, the nearly indefinable concept of Gefi during your stay. The fact is, some Greeks say that Gefi is not just something you experience in times of happiness, but it is an energy that you maintain even when things are tough. It's dancing in the rain, so to speak. It's a culturally embedded idea to stay positive. And you'll likely hear that, you'll hear it in conversations with your friends. You'll hear it, it's casually just comes out. The way that people just they shine the Gefi, they bring out that emotion. You'll hear it with people that are just getting ready to go out for a dance. Or you know what? Sometimes you might even just hear it about their day at work. I don't know how I link Gefi with work. I mean, I definitely link Gefi with my weekend work, but I don't know how I link it with my everyday work. Hey, that's another story, but definitely not an episode worth. While Gefi can roughly be translated to fun or cheerfulness, many Greek people consider Gefi to be uniquely Greek characteristic, a magical element of being in Greece, enjoying the culture and having fun like no one else in the world can. Guys, this podcast series is all about Gefi, especially with all that sadness the world is currently experiencing right now. 2020 thus far hasn't been the most fantastic year. But you know what? We all need a bit of Gefi to keep us going and to push through. Life is short, but with Gefi, you can keep going. You can push through. You can make it to the other side. We can all get through this together. Well, guys, now that you have a brief insight into who I am, what my podcast is about, and the many wonderful things that I'm going to be discussing with you through my series, this journey, I hope that you stay tuned for more episodes of Just Greeks and Beats. This is Valandi, and I will keep your Gefi streaming.